what we're going to do today is hopefully to share with you some of the things that we have done, to share with you some of the things that we are doing, and to build with you some of the things that we will do in the future. Health Education England is the body that essentially pays for all education for everybody that's involved in healthcare. So it pays for undergraduate education and it pays for postgraduate education. And that's a lot of money for everyone that's involved in health. So it's doctors and nurses and paramedics and occupational therapists and physiotherapists and all the rest of it. So a lot of the money is caught up in those courses that individuals go on at undergraduate and postgraduate level. But some of it isn't. And the really exciting and interesting and imaginative thing that health education Kent, Surrey and Sussex, which is the bit that looks after, bizarrely enough, Kent, Surrey and Sussex, what they decided to do was that the small amount, or relatively small amount, of discretionary money that they had, they would, instead of just using it on an ad hoc basis, they would decide on 3, 4, 5 priorities, and they would use that money in a programmatic way, hopefully over a 5-year period, to do things that wouldn't have happened otherwise, to do things that were directly useful for the people of Kent, Surrey and Sussex, but to actually commission new education, training, research projects that would make things different after the 5 years of the programme, so to change things. And that's a really interesting thing to do. And we went through a process, an open process that involved talking to large groups of individuals, of the public, professionals, other people, trying to work out what those priorities should be. And I'm really pleased that one of those priorities was dementia. And, you know, the fact that, I mean, you will all know why dementia is a priority for us, both in Kent, Surrey and Sussex. We have, per capita, the highest number of people with dementia anywhere else, anywhere in the country. We are the oldest bit of the country. We have services that are, you know, good in places, but less good in others. And in that, we are no different from the rest of the country. There is nowhere in the country that has perfect dementia services. We're progressing to improve things. The priority of dementia has really only become apparent in the last 6 or 7 years with the fantastic work that the Alzheimer's Society did in bringing attention to the numbers of people with dementia. So 800,000 people with dementia in the UK at the moment. The fact that that would double in the next 20 years. The costs of dementia, something like £23 billion a year, and the fact that those costs will at least triple in the next 20 years. And that kind of led to an increased understanding also that the services that are provided for people with dementia, in terms of diagnosis, right through to care at home, in general hospitals, through to care in care homes, right through to the end of life, there are problems all the way along. So we're in a process of trying to improve things for people with dementia. Essentially taking the challenge of dementia as being very similar to the challenge that we had with cancer 50 years ago or 40 years ago. And there have been, you know, really amazing changes as part of that. And that provides the context for us doing things locally here as well, in our region. The priorities for dementia were then set by again a succession of meetings that were specifically focused on dementia, but were very inclusive in terms of the individuals were there, and we made specific we took specific steps to include people with dementia and their carers in those deliberations as well. And we ended up with some priorities. We ended up with 4 main groups, and you have in your packs a document that takes you through these processes and that sets out what those priorities were. But they are essentially the 4 areas that we will be looking at this morning. So they were about practitioners in training, and we're going to hear from the Time for Dementia team, which is our approach to dealing with that. Professionals in practice. We're going to hear from the Dementia Fellowship team that has delivered dementia fellowship trainings to professionals that are in practice in general hospitals, in accident and emergency departments, and in primary care. And we're going to hear about family carers, empowering family carers, and also empowering care home staff. So those are the 4 themes that we came up with. And 2 of those, well, one of those is complete at the moment, and we're thinking about whether we do it again, which is the Dementia Fellowship Programme, though we will maintain the structures of that as well. One is underway, which is the Time for Dementia Programme, which you'll hear more about in a minute. And 2 are in the process of starting up. We're 2.5 years into a 5-year process. That means we have 2 more years. Those were our priorities that we identified at the beginning. But we have a fantastic opportunity now to identify the priorities, the things that, again, that we haven't done, to identify what we wish to do, what we wish to develop in the next 2 years. So the programme for dementia has had support at around £1 million a year for each of these 5 years. So we can commission stuff that is substantial, that has the potential to deliver not only while it is going on, but to deliver afterwards as well. And we hope that we will make the case that some things will become routinely part of what Health Education England commissions, like the Time for Dementia project, for example. So there's some work to be done here as well. The workshops that we have that Victoria Hare will tell you about more, and that you will all contribute to, I hope, are there to decide what we should do in terms of building the plan for the next 2 years of funding. So there's a real job to be done here. This reference group was instrumental in setting our initial goals. It will be instrumental in setting our goals for the future as well. So there's some real work to be done there. Now, one of the things that we are also in the process of ensuring works well is including people with dementia and carers in formulating these new plans as well as the older ones. And I know there are people here from the Alzheimer's Society, and thank you very much for being here. And there are people with their own lived personal experience of dementia. But we're also setting out on a process of taking the priorities and the thoughts that you have today, and we will take them out to specific smaller groups of people with dementia and carers around the 3 counties that we have in a way that makes it accessible to those individuals. And you'll see in the pack we also have a brochure that's talking about the commissioning exercise that we're going through at the moment to enable people to come forward to facilitate such groups so that we can enable that to happen. So what you come up with will be filtered through what people with dementia and their carers see as being a priority, and we think that's tremendously important. And the programme board that runs this will balance all the information and will come up with our plans for the next 2 years. And next year, we hope that you will come back and you will see what you have done, and you will see what we are doing, and we will be able to reflect back on that and to see where we want to go for our last years. So that's the plan for today.